So now we have a music track. Should be easy from now on, right? Mix it a little, make it sound good, and then publish it. Well, so you guys know, it's not that easy, and that's why I'm making this video. I made an attempt to mix our little music. Here is how it sounded before the mix. And here is how it sounds now. Quite a difference, right? We are going to learn in the 3 next videos how to transform a poorly sounding music track into something that is much more pleasing for the ears. This video will talk about music mixing theory, really the basics, as a starting point for your own exploration. Mixing music is an art in itself that can require years of study before reaching mastery. There are schools specialized in this. And actually, in the music biz, the best audio engineers are real stars, very much sought for by the most successful musicians out there. In a 10 or 15-minute video, it may be arrogant from me to pretend I will make a master mixer out of you. Even a full course would not be enough. However, the first learning step brings a lot of rewards. Watch this presentation. Take notes. What I'm about to share with you is gold. What is mixing? Mixing consists in blending all the instruments playing in a music piece onto 2 tracks, left and right. Sounds easy, right? Not so fast. There are 3 main mix tasks to complete a good mix. The volume mix. In this phase, you define how loud are each instrument relatively to each other. The pan mix. In the pan mix, you define where the instruments are located in the stereo space. And finally, in my eyes the most important and also the most difficult, the frequency mix, also called the spectral mix. In this phase, you make sure that each instrument has a dedicated frequency range. The first step is to prepare your mix, and that involves cleaning up. Make sure that you are satisfied with all your individual sounds and instruments. If you are limited in CPU power, bounce your MIDI-generated tracks to audio. Yes, audio requires much less power from your computer than music or sounds which are generated by a synthesizer and then pass through effects. Remove all unwanted buzzes, pops and clicks in your audio tracks. And also check for artifacts from your synth or your effects. If in your project you have many tracks, which could make the process of mixing them tedious or unmanageable, group them. Group the tracks that have similar spectral ranges and sounds together. Do that after having volume mixed them, and keep the originals, of course. You can do that, for example, if you have multiple electric guitars or multiple violins. Remember, mixing must be fun for it to work, so you need to prepare it, right? You need to prepare the fun. Label. Label your tracks, color code them, have your own organization, it doesn't matter, but be organized. If you are messy, you'll always be looking for this instrument or this track or that, and you will lose it. Mixing is an art. Mixing is like making music. You are in a flow of creation. You are creating when you are mixing. So make sure that everything is well organized so you know where things are, and you don't have to lose time or lose your workflow by searching for stuff. Bypass any effects you might have inserted on the main bus. Do that because you want to have the pure sound, right? You want to work with the raw. You might want to put them back afterwards, that's not a problem, but this is part of another phase of the mix which is called the mastering. And finally, the most important, start your mix with fresh ears. We can be deceived by our ears, it's amazing. Have you ever, for example, mixed something and you thought it was really good and the next morning you listened to it and right? So, start your mix with fresh ears. If you don't, you're just wasting time. Step number 2. Create a rough volume mix. The objective here is to get a feel for your music by adjusting the volume of the individual instruments. So I insist again, make sure your ears are rested before starting the mixing process. Then, check on each track that there are no unnecessary effects, especially reverb. Reverb can mess up a mix quite effectively, so if you have reverb which is not really necessary, get rid of it. Start your volume mix by muting all tracks, and then unmute them one by one while adjusting their respective volume. Make sure to balance the instruments according to the feel you want to give to your music, and not what is standard, right? Stay yourself. Once you are satisfied with this, go to the next step. Step number 3, frequency mix, also called spectral mix. This is the most crucial step, so make sure you understand what follows. When you listen to a rock band playing, you hear the kick drum, the bass, the guitars, the snare, the keyboard or the piano, the vocals, the hi-hat, the cymbals, etc., percussions, whatever. How can you make all these blend so that the result is a harmonious piece of music in which you can appreciate the talents of all the players, instead of a big mushy and messy noise? You have to separate them, and you have to separate them in frequency. Each instrument covers various frequency bands. The bass and the kick drum will provide sound in the low end from 50 to 300 Hz, but can also show up in the highs at 2 or 2.5 kHz. The vocals will be predominant between 600 and 1200 Hz, but you do have some booming around 200 Hz and sibilance in the 5 kHz. Another example, some cymbals and hi-hats will carry energy more in the highs above 3 kHz. But if you want to keep the gong sound, you need to keep some of its energy in the lows too. And when it comes to synthesizers, well, they can show up absolutely anywhere, so you really need to take care of these guys. In Google, type instrument frequency range and find dozens of charts. But the best idea is to check it out for yourself using Reason Spectrum Analyzer on your own instruments, a little like you can see now on the screen. Yesterday, when I was thinking how I would present this video, I had a lot of fun recording some instruments and recording also their spectra. Check this. Look at this spectra. What a beautiful representation of my voice. Yay. The point of spectral mixing is to avoid instruments treading on each other's toes by giving each of them some spectral space. For example, it's a good idea to remove the mids of a bass to leave the space for a rhythmic guitar, and to remove the low-end rumble of the guitar to leave space for the bass. Another example would be to reduce a synth pad in the range of frequency where a melodic piano is playing. This last example is one of the things we will do on our little music track, by the way. The best way to do this is to visualize each track with a spectrum analyzer, so you have a good idea where it is located in the audio spectrum, and also where you can cut unnecessary rumble or noise that you do not need for your music. Use your eyes to help your ears. Sometimes it can be quite difficult to do that. For example, a bass and a kick drum often battle for the same spectral space. The solution is to use frequency-selective sidechain compression. This technique separates bass and kick in time by dynamically reducing the bass sound at the frequency of the kick each time the kick hits. We will see how to do this in the next video. And finally, my last tip concerning frequency mixing. I suggest you start dealing first with the low end, and then you make up your way towards the higher frequency instruments. Et voilà! I hope this was useful to you guys, so happy mixes to all and bye!